Okay, great. Thanks, everyone.
Hey,
I
Paul.
don't, Hi,
Sorry
Greg.
for like,
I don't think this is going to be a very long session. I just wanted to be transparent with everyone about the status of the various work streams, what we're doing for the next PI. I wanted to again go through the roadmap with people so they're up to date on it. And finally, I want to review the proposed schedule of product council meetings for this PI and get any feedback. And also, if anyone has any suggestions for other product council sessions, I think they'll be very welcome. So, with that, let me begin. I'm going to share my screen. Right. As I said, I expect this to be fairly short. I just want people to be aware again for anyone who was a little busy at the last convening of the status of the work streams and what we anticipate for the rest of this PI. So obviously you're aware we had Moduloop 17 released, and that's probably, as I've said about a million times, one of our biggest releases for quite some time. Lots of changes, lots of refinements and additional features. Um, I won't go through that again. It's all ancient history now. And we have 17.1, which will come along soon enough, with some SDK refinements to better support RTB and the usual bug fixes, maintenance aspects, etc. Um, and we're moving towards Moduloop 18. I had hoped that we would have some degree of Tiger Beetle integration in that, but since the convening, it's clear that that will probably be in Moduloop 19. Um, but I do hope that by then we will have the payments addressing using LEIs for merchant payments and the dispute management platform in place, at least in pilot pilot condition. So the participation tools workstream is going ahead as per normal. Lots of good work going on there, and I expect that will happen for the foreseeable future. The participation tools for fintechs or open banking work uh, is specifically aimed at support for fintechs and others who want to connect via the PISP interface. So an SDK essentially to make it simple for them to use the PISP interface. However, I think this is going to be delayed further, and that is because our workstream lead is essentially out of Rwanda. Um, I'm talking about Alan from Awardin, and he has let me know that our switch are focused so much on migrating existing use cases to their new modular implementation that they are unlikely to have any time to focus on this. It's not just about the migration of use cases. They're also very highly occupied on a Tazama deployment and integrating that into the modular deployment. So he's not going to have any time to think about this till June, essentially. So that work stream is effectively on hold. Deployment tools work stream going ahead as per normal. I will be publishing a full workstream update uh, report based on the workstream leads call last week. I'll be doing that as soon as I can, as soon as I have time between meetings. There's a new workstream here, which is about developing a QA framework for adopters. This is about an adopter being able to use a toolkit to demonstrate that their deployment meets the requirements around quality, security, resilience, etc. Um, and that's something that they might use for self-certification, or it might be something that an adopter might use might work with an SI if an SI wishes to develop a service around that. So certification, third-party certification of a deployment, which would be of more value to a regulator. The dispute management platform is continuing. That one is actually going very well. Um, the latest update is that it's being led from us from our switch, but we also have support from IPSL in Kenya, and they reckon that they have a solution which meets 80% of requirements, and they're working to extend that to support the final 20%. And we hope to have that in pilot condition by the end of the PI. PISP 2.0, which is actually needed to support the participation tools for fintechs. Paul Baker, you told me that last week that essentially you don't have the capacity to support this at the moment. You've done all the definition work, but you need support for implementation there. We may have found some implementers who wish to help with that. I might get back to you on that. That's all right.
Okay, brilliant. There is a little bit of design work that can still proceed around the PISP notification.
Yes, yeah, PISP notification for the DFSPs. Is that correct, or is it for the fintechs? I can't remember now.
So that the fintechs can receive notifications.
That's it. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, I think we would need support from you on that to do that final design work, if you have time.
Yes, sure.
Okay, thank you. Early eye addressing, Lola, I know you're on the call. That work is proceeding, Lola. I know you need more support on that. We have a meeting scheduled for later this week to discuss that further.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but I do think that is achievable by the end of this PI, and I think that we may be able to provide you with some technical support as well, development support.
Okay.
See. Refactoring bulk payments and foreign exchange refinement. I suspect that these are not going to actually proceed during this PI. There's just no capacity in order to improve on that. So that might have some impact here on the participation tools workstream, if it happens at all, because the refactoring is across not just the core, but also into the participation tools. But we may have to shelve that for now, unless Paul and others are able to do it sometime to it. The FX refinements, that actually might become a higher priority very quickly in order to support COMESA on the DRPP project. But we are actively reviewing that, and those of you who were at Product Council last week were involved in that discussion, and we are currently seeking support from a correspondent banker or two to actually check that we are doing the right thing there. We think we are, but it's good to have external eyes on it. ISO 222 refinements. This is really about the market practice document, which has been published now on the Mojo Loop documentation website, and we would welcome any comments from anyone who is able to review it, so that we can finalize it and submit it to the ISO 222 organization. The Swift interconnection piece, I think this is very much theoretical at the moment. I don't foresee this as something that we can actually say will happen from a technical or implementation perspective. It's still very much in the early stages of being defined. So we'll play that there, see how it goes. Mojo Loop evolution, the Tiger Beetle integration Tiger Beetle integration is actually only one part of this work stream, and we expect the Tiger Beetle integration to go reasonably smoothly. We're being helped by the Tiger Beetle Foundation in that area, and I'd originally hoped we'd get that working by the end of this PI, but now they're saying probably the next PI. There are multiple elements to this. There's also settlement, so we're changing the implementation of settlement to transfer some of the load into the Tiger Beetle implementation. but that will require API changes, and the admin API needs extending. And also we're looking at reviewing the audit capabilities of the Mojaloop Hub. So how do we better support audits in a truly secure manner? And there's a whole bunch of other concerns there as well. So that work stream, I originally thought it was going to be an absolutely huge work stream, and then I was reassured it's not that big. And now I'm starting to go back to my original thought that actually that's a really big work stream, which is going to take a lot of effort. Performance optimization, we are working quite hard there on the development of a range of performance measuring tool approaches. There's an agreement in process of being signed with AWS where they're going to give us some credits to allow us to measure performance in a number of environments, and they will actually contribute to a white paper about the results of that evaluation. But it's not just about AWS. We also want to do it on premise, and we are in progress of acquiring our own on-premise servers so that we can measure deployment, measure the performance of Mojaloop. There's one here that I've moved actually into the next PI already, and that's the next gen cross-border settlement workstream. Again, I think this is very speculative, and I might remove that entirely from the roadmap. On core and releases, Sam has been doing great work on that. We've already talked about the move for 17.1, and he's provided a lot of updates on the progress there, and I'll be publishing that shortly, and same for platform quality and security. One last thing before we move on from this. You will notice that the roadmap gets very sparse once we're talking about more than a year's time. And that I'm not at all happy with. Our focus in the roadmap has always been, what are we doing now? What are the real work streams for this PI and the next PI and maybe the PI after that? I want to extend it further to the right to include things that are more strategic and which may spawn multiple sub-technical work streams. Those of you who have heard me talking about the restructuring of Product Council will have heard me saying that I want to create a product ideation group to help really extend the roadmap to the right at least a couple of years. And to that end, I have asked an old colleague of mine, Dave Birch, to present his thoughts on long-term strategy in the payment space. I'll be putting out some more details on the Product Council Slack channel shortly. I have a month's press release ready to go. I just haven't had time to publish it yet. But I would encourage you all to come along to that. We will be forming a semi-formal product ideation group as well. And this presentation, which I'm hoping will be the first of a series, will be input into the product ideation group's various ponderings, and we'll see how that proceeds over the next PI. Does anyone have any questions so far? I'm conscious I'm talking very quickly. I apologize.
No questions.
No comments?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Lola. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the meeting schedule for the next PI. It's not complete yet. I have it in draft at the moment, so I have a few gaps here. So you all know that in past PIs we've arranged workstream product council meetings about essentially workstream presentations, and I'm trying to reduce that because I think the changing needs of the community mean that we need to have a wider area of coverage. So this is the current schedule at the moment. You will notice there are gaps here. So these are the dates on the left-hand side, obviously. Where it says Tuesday, it essentially means in the normal product council group. However, there are meetings that happen on other days. So, for example, last Thursday, we had the Workstream leads meeting with all the Workstream updates, which was very useful. So thank you, everyone. And today we have this meeting, clearly. At the moment, there is a gap for next Tuesday, but I'll be seeking to fill that in over the next week or so. I was hoping that after that we could have a workshop actually on auditing and what Moduloop needs, what auditors might need, and use that to shape the requirements for the product-based support of auditing in Moduloop. But I'm not sure we're ready for that, so I may schedule that later. The following Thursday, we'll have this effectively a kickoff meeting for the product ideation group, and we'll talk about that later. But essentially, I'd encourage you all to come along to that. I think it's going to be a really interesting meeting. Following that, the following week, I want a meeting which is essentially focused on adopters. I want to start really gaining an understanding of the regulatory challenges that they face, and I don't just mean in that area. Financial regulation. I also mean data privacy, data protection, any other requirements that they are having to meet. And really, is there anything that Moduloop should be doing to support that? The next one is a webinar where I hope we're going to be able to talk about an accountant's perspective on Moduloop accounts. So stop talking about Moduloop accounting from an engineering perspective. Let's talk about what the accountants actually need and how can we better support that as we move to large-scale deployments. Following that, on the Thursday, we will have the usual, it's actually the normal schedule for the Workstream leads meeting, but this is one I want to be open to everyone, and it's going to be effectively the mid-PI review that we used to have. So it's open Workstream updates from the leads, and anyone is welcome to come along and really see what all the Workstreams are doing and how they mesh together in their objectives. There's a gap in the schedule there, which I hope we will fill certainly by the 10th of June. On the 12th, on the 17th of June, the following week, I've asked the leads of that workstream, the QI assessment framework, to come and present their work so far. A classic workstream output presentation. Then I want to have effectively a webinar discussion group on settlement in multi-scheme deployments. What are the challenges there? How can they be addressed? Then next we have an intro to the deployment tools documentation, which I'm really hoping will be in a fairly good state by that point. I know that that Vander has been doing a lot of work there. I'm hoping that we will actually be able to do an intro to it there, so that adopters and potential adopters get a better understanding of the documentation and how they can use it to manage their deployment. And then we have a workstream leads meeting, which is the usual workstream updates. And then before I'm actually going to have hopefully a product ideation group meeting where we're going to actually put together candidates for the roadmap for PI 28 and beyond. And then final meeting of this PI will be an open meeting on planning for PI 28. Essentially what are the outputs of the work streams over the last PI? How will that carry over to the next PI? What new work streams might there be, etc., etc. And we can use that as essentially input to the convening, which will be happening in the following week. And that's all I plan to say on that for a moment. So I'll open that to questions, if I may. if anyone has any. No questions from anyone?
I've got a question. The quality assurance assessment framework, who's leading and working on that?
Well, at the moment, it's sorry, I think I've just lost the screen. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, okay. At the moment, it's being led out of KPMG in Kenya. They've offered to do it as an open source donation, which we will, of course, have to assess as we get closer to the time. The output being a QA assessment toolkit, which anyone can use. They are not going to be doing it on their own. We've already had requests from adopters that they contribute to that. It's not a QA of the software in any way. Well, this is QA of a deployment. Have they done the deployment properly? Have they got all the processes, control points, etc. in place? Have they deployed it properly? Is it robust, etc., etc.? So, if you wish to contribute to that work stream, I'd be very happy for.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the scope a little bit more. So Helm test that deploy of Helm is correct. We're talking about something much more substantial than that, presumably.
Yeah, we're checking to see whether it meets the requirements of financial regulators in terms of robustness, resilience, etc. It is often a requirement that a regulator will require an audit by an external body before they will issue a license for a commercial deployment. Certainly, well, way back when, I actually did this for M-Pesa, and we did an end-to-end review of the quality of the service as deployed in Kenya at the time, and we submitted that to the Central Bank of Kenya as input to their decision on whether to give a license or not. So it's that kind of thing that we're looking at.
Okay. Okay, great. It'll be.
We do actually have a workshop, kickoff workshop this week if you would like to come along to it.
Yes, please invite me. I just want to understand how much overlap is within the sort of COMESA project and how much we can collaborate between the two different work streams.
Yeah. It's not this week, it's next week. Sorry, just check my diary. I'll just forward it to you now.
Thanks, Paul.
There we go. Sent. Okay, does anyone else have any questions? No? Okay, fine. So consider yourself all informed and up to date. And we will leave the meeting there. So thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.